At this point, I would introduce David Luna, who is the political chair on the Chicano Caucus, who will read a message of solidarity for his group.
Hello, my name is David Luna, and I am political chair of Chicano Caucus.
I'm Geraldo Roma. I'm the gender and sexuality chair of Chicano Caucus. The Chicano Caucus of Columbia University stands in solidarity with the Cuban Five and stands against any manifestation of the United States' corrupt justice system, a system that disproportionately targets Black and Latino youth in New York City, a system that violates basic human rights by using emotional, physical, and sexual violence to break and permanently silence those whose politics are too threatening, a system that harasses and disproportionately arrests Latina trans women and leaves them extremely vulnerable to physical and sexual violence once incarcerated, a system that capitalizes on immigrant labor by day and detains undocumented persons under the harshest conditions by night.
The detention and deportation of immigrants is a multi-billion-dollar industry that separates families and violates basic human rights. In 2010, 500,000 people were detained in more than 300 detention centers around the country, and the number is increasing every day. The Chicano Caucus says no to a system that labels some politics, cultures, Black and brown skin, entire lives and their human survival as illegal. That freedom, the freedom of the Cuban Five, is not just the end of the severe human rights violation done to these men. It is also a blow against a system that profits off of the violence and dehumanization suffered by immigrants and people of color every day in this country. Thank you.
Rodolfo Reyes Rodriguez is the ambassador to the United Nations for the Permanent Mission of Cuba. In a statement made on January 15, 2013 at the United Nations in response to an agenda item called A Comprehensive Approach to Counterterrorism, Ambassador Reyes Rodriguez said that the government of the Republic of Cuba reaffirms its strongest opposition to all acts, methods, and practices of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, by and against whomever and wherever committed, whatever their motivations, including those in which United States are directly or indirectly involved. Likewise, Cuba condemns any action aimed at encouraging, supporting, financing, or covering up any act, method, or practice of terrorism. Cuba is convinced that the only way to effectively prevent and combat terrorism is through bilateral and multilateral cooperation among all states on the basis of mutual respect, non-interference in internal affairs, and sovereign equality of states. Please help me welcome Ambassador Rodolfo Reyes Rodriguez.
Well, thank you very much, but I'm receiving those applauses not for me. I think that is for the Cuban Five and for the Cuban people. And precisely on behalf of the Cuban people, I would like to express our deep appreciation, our deep and sincere thanks for what you are doing tonight. Because most of you, some of you, you are not foreigners in this fight for the freedom and for justice in the case of the Cuban Five. Some of you has been remaining committed for so many years in the search, in the fight, in this particular case, to break the silence, to break the injustice, to break the double standards, and to have a fair trial, and to realize the freedom that is the only justice that is possible for our Cuban Five, our Cuban brothers, our five Cuban heroes. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much to all of you. I think I don't going to enter on details because I think that the case has been clearly explained. only to remark some ideas. First of all, has been expressed here what the American government in this case even has been paying journalists to try to demonize and to try to interfere in the justice in the case in Miami. Contrary to that, they are imposing a silence. No media is dealing with this particular case in our days. That is the reason it has been pointed out here. What is the importance that we are working in the grassroots levels, in the universities, in different parts of the U.S. And in every other country of the world, precisely to raise awareness, because one of the main problems in this particular case is that the American government imposed a sentence on silence and a sentence of there is very few people, and we would like, I think that is one of the issues that we need to work on it, is to have this cause really well known and to mobilize the public opinions and different sectors, and particularly here in the American society, to fight for justice and to fight for clarity in this particular case. In this night, particularly two of the Cuban five can be in my place. We have been studying together, particularly the case of Fernando and Geraldo. We studied two of us. We were studying in the High Institute of International Relations. We were planning to be diplomats, any one of us. That was not possible for Geraldo and for Fernando, because you has been explained here what were happening for the Cuban people and in the history of the U.S. policy on Cuba, particularly in the 90s, and has been explained the circumstances of the case, particularly in the 90s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the socialism in the Eastern Europe. Some part of the imperialist minds here in U.S., they thought that was the time, and particularly also those right-wing groups in Miami, and in other part, because that is not only Miami of U.S., that those terrorists and mafia groups are working. They thought that was the time to have the final attack, to have the final round against the Cuban Revolution, and they are going to be able to defeat the Cuban Revolution, and the Cuban people is not going to be able to sustain its own revolution. And has been some elements occurring, particularly at that time we were passing through a very difficult economic period. We used to call in Cuba a special period, but that was a very deep crisis. I think that at that time that was 85% of our revenue disappeared one day to other. We were passing through very difficult days. We have no electricity. Even and sometimes we have a lot of difficulty even to get food, to ensure food security to our people. At that time, the development of the tourism industry has been one of the very few tools that we have precisely to provide a development and to be able to overcome all those obstacles and difficulties that we have at that time. Those groups in Miami, they start, particularly has been referred to here, the case of Luis Posada Carriles and so many others. They were plotting, and they were, that is the reason why René and the rest of the Cuban Five were doing that in US, and particularly in Miami, and not in Paris or in Madrid, and in other city of the world, and not in other part of the world, is precisely because it's here in US, and particularly in that area of Florida, when those terrorist groups are working, and with some of them even with impunity. And only we need to refer to the case of Luis Posada Carriles, that now is living without any kind of justice on the basis of terrorist activities that he committed, and he's still there. And precisely, Fernando and Geraldo, we were at that time at the end of the 90s and at the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s, we were in Angola. We were no professional soldiers. We went to Angola on the voluntary basis and to be part of the Cuban army that was fighting apartheid and that was defending the sovereignty of the Angolan people against the apartheid, and that has been fighting closely to the SWAPO of Namibia and also to the ANC of South Africa, because at that time for us it was important. It means that around the 1990, Geraldo and Fernando, they were in Angola and they went back to Cuba. It means that at that period, they can be still a diplomat, they can be in my place now, but we decided that it has been decided and they respond themselves on their responsibility to defend the dignity and to defend the sovereignty and to defend the justice and to defend the life of the Cuban people. And they were in that kind of activities to enter in, to be searching information, to be running after all those terrorist groups in Miami, precisely to avoid that all those terrorist attacks are going to occur in the hotel. I would like to remember, for instance, that in the year 1997, there was a bomb that exploded in one of the Copacabana hotel, and an Italian tourist was killed. That was Fabio Di Celmo. I think that if at that time we were not able to take measures to avoid that those terrorist activities are going to be stopped, otherwise our tourist industry are going to collapse, because you know that the tourism is based on safety, and there is no tourists that are going to be traveling to a country when you can be risking to be killed by a terrorist activity. And that is one of the reasons that our friends, our Cuban Five, has been doing that in Miami. This is one of the main priority elements, and the other one also was referred here. At that time also, that was the intention to provoke a particular situation that is going to encourage the military intervention by the US forces in Cuba. And that is brought us to a rescue that has been referred to here in this particular case. And other groups that has been trying to fabricate a case, to fabricate a situation that is going to put the American government to the situation that they are going to be pushed to the corner, otherwise they need to react, and they are going to be doing that kind of military intervention in Cuba. And why military intervention? Because it's very clear that they have no force, they have no recognition in the Cuban people, the so-called political opposition, they have no way to be defeating the Cuban revolution using political tools, using ideas, using a program of a future. The only way that there has been always thinking that is going to be the possibility for them is precisely to ensure the involvement of the US military intervention in Cuba. Has been that case, particularly the shutdown of these two airplanes in the year 1996. I remember I was myself in the permanent mission of Cuba at that time. That was a very difficult situation, and that was very risky time for Cuba. During those days, the issue was referred to the Security Council. And precisely what we're doing, our friends, has been to acting in these two areas, searching information to our authorities are going to be able to neutralize those activities of the terrorist groups in our hotels, and also to avoid that kind of situation that can provoke a very risky and very delicate situation that is going to encourage the military intervention by the US forces in Cuba. They were trying to, the Cuban people received information to avoid that in that particular difficult period of our country, a situation like this can occur. On the trial, on the justice, I think that is very clear. There has been no any justice provided to our brothers. I think even the working group on arbitrary detention on the Human Rights Council already declared as arbitrary detention the case of the Cuban Five. Has been no any possibilities. I would like also to use this night to pay tribute, because I think that our brothers, the Cuban heroes, they have been receiving very good defense. we have very good lawyers. And one of them today, I would like to pay tribute to Leonard Wenglas, that he has been in so many years defending our Cuban files. It's very clear that they remain on jail, not because there has been no arguments and we have no, they have been not receiving good defense. It's very clear that they have no opportunity at all. They have no way to be receiving justice treatment, and all this has been manipulated from the very beginning. And for us, has been very clear that we need to be exhausting all legal tool, all legal possibility, but from the very beginning to us, taking into account all those elements, precisely at that time, the information that we collect on the activities of those terrorist groups has been passed to the U.S. government. And what they did, what we thought that they should be doing at that time, that was to act against those terrorist groups and to put them to a situation that they are going to be neutralized. Contrary to that, what they did at that time, that has been running after the sources of the information. And that has been precisely the Cuban Five has been identified at that time because they has been the source of the information that we presented to the FBI as the American authorities. These particular cases is clearly, even from the humanitarian point of view, a very delicate case because there is no justice at all. René, he has been exhausted his sentence in prison. Now he's still there in Miami. The American authorities said that they're an American citizen, but even René is in the readiness to say that he don't like to be American citizen anymore, but there is no possibility at all. He continued to be here for three more years, and that is very risky situation because he's moving closely to those terrorist groups, precisely the one that he was collecting information on their activities at the time when that he was doing his job and his activities before to be in prison. And also, we have two other cases that is very clear injustice treatment. That is the case, for instance, of Adriana Perez O'Connor. That is the wife of Geraldo. Adriana, now she is going to be entering in a period of the life that is going to be even very difficult to get pregnant and to obtain the opportunity to be a mother, because she was not able to be in contact with Geraldo. She all her requests to get a visa to visit Geraldo has been denied. That is the same situation of Olga Salanueva, the wife of René. Even René there is under vigilant surveillance. Yeah, surveillance freedom? No, it's not freedom at all. Surveillance what? Correction, yeah. But even he's not able to receive a visit of Olga, and also he's receiving all that kind of treatment. For instance, I remember myself working in the Commission on Human Rights, that Yvette, that was at that time, very small daughter of René. At that time, she had probably 5 or 6 years, and she was moving on the electrical stairs in the Palais des Nations there in Geneva, asking or searching for justice and to be granting the opportunity to visit René and to be allowed that also Olga and herself are going to be granted visa to visit René, and that was not possible. Finally, because I think that so many ideas, and the most important ideas that all of us need to fight for the freedom of the Cuban fight has been already expressed, and we express our deep appreciation to both of you. Thank you very much for your commitment, and particularly for your clear explanation of the cases. I think, and I would like to finalize now, finally, once again, to express on behalf of the Cuban people our deep appreciation for what you are doing, and also I would like also to encourage all of you to continue to be fighting and to be working in this particular case, because what you are doing not only for the Cuban Five, you are doing for the whole Cuban people, because the Cuban Five is the best part of the generation that was born after the revolution of Cuba. They are representing the dignity, they are representing the commitment on principles, they are representing the best part of our society, and what you are doing, that is not only for the Cuban Five, for their families, for their relatives, you are doing that for the whole Cuban people. Thank you very much.
This is a very special evening for a lot of different reasons. But one of the reasons is because of the person that I'm going to introduce next, who is a compañero that I love and have always respected and have not seen since 2000 when we were both out of the country. His name is Luis Rosa, and he is a Puerto Rican nationalist who received a sentence of 75 years for seditious conspiracy and other charges. He was sentenced in 1981 and was extended a clemency offer by President Bill Clinton in 1999. Mr. Rosa is from Chicago, and at the University of Illinois, he became involved in the struggle against police brutality. He was involved in the campaign against police murders of unarmed Puerto Ricans who arose in response to the killings in Humboldt Park in 1977 by the Chicago police. Please, all of us, give a very warm welcome to Luis Rosa.
Some of you might not see me behind this podium, but I'll do my best at stepping on tippy toes. The U.S. government categorically denies it has political prisoners in its gulags. It does it primarily to cover up the nefarious, barbaric, and even criminal acts and practices it carries out against us and other regular prisoners, and to do it with impunity. It uses denial as its license to violate our most basic human rights by subjecting us to isolation and sensory deprivation regimes that are nothing less than cruel and unusual punishment. It uses it to hoodwink its own citizens to believe that it doesn't criminalize dissenters or opponents of its wars and other imperialistic practices. It does it to perpetuate the lie that it is the ultimate defender of freedom, justice, democracy, and human rights in the world, and it uses it at times to further criminalize political prisoners and or our families, and to disconnect us from our families, communities, supporters, and the just and noble causes we serve and try to continue serving. It could be argued that the government's denial of our existence has worked, but our wills and spirits are strong enough to continue resisting and struggling. These words could have been spoken by Antonio, Fernando, Rene, Geraldo, Ramon. But these are the words of Oscar Lopez Rivera, who this May, on the 29th of May, will have completed his 32nd year in prison as one of the longest held Puerto Rican political prisoners in the hemisphere. But Oscar and the Cuban Five do not stand alone and are not alone behind these prison gates. You have hundreds of political prisoners most who average 30 years in prison already, that the United States government has tried to silence, has tried to disappear, as part of an ongoing program to criminalize, to neutralize, to assassinate, to disrupt our leadership in our communities. But you here present today, the work that many of you have continued throughout the years, have made sure that these comrades, these women and men who have been so valiant to give of their lives, of their families, of their sweat to just causes. Because when we speak of the Cuban Five, when we speak of Ramon, we speak of Motulo Shakur. When we speak of Fernando, we speak of Leonard Patir. When we speak of Rene, we speak of Sondiara Koli, of Ramona Africa, of the African brothers and sisters, of all the political prisoners. It is one struggle, many different fronts, but one struggle. And you have made sure that their voices are heard, that their voices are sang. And that is very important, because I would not be here today if not for these voices, for your voices, for many of you who have carried that burden on your shoulders, who have recruited others to help with that burden. My sentence was 108 years. But the number of years does not matter, because a dear comrade of mine was sentenced to 6 months for trespassing on Vieques, on Puerto Rican soil. And he was sentenced to 6 months, and his sentence turned into a life sentence because he was murdered, assassinated by FBI agents within the prison walls of Tallahassee. His name was Angel Rodriguez Cristobal. So when we speak of supporting the Cuban Five, or supporting Oscar, or supporting any of our political prisoners, we do it not just for them, because it is within the process itself of liberation that we become liberated. We cannot wait to win a revolution to say we are free. We have to start becoming free every single day we struggle. The act of resistance, the act of your presence, as the comrade mentioned earlier, the fact that you're here is an act of resistance. The fact that you're here is an act of love, because solidarity can only be born out of an act of love. So I encourage you to keep going on with the struggles. Those of you who are veteran know that this is a protracted struggle, that we do not put a timetable. We do not say these comrades are coming out tomorrow, that they're coming out next year. We work that they come out today, that they come out now. That is our work, that is our mission. But we prepare also for a protracted struggle. And for those of you who are new to the struggle, who come seeking answers, many of you have received it from a legal point of view, from a political point of view, and I know you're going to receive it from a cultural point of view, from the group that's going to perform here tonight. But we have to keep vigilant. It is your vigilance, it is your communication with those inside that keeps them alive, that energizes them. But it also keeps the jailers on point, that there are people out here who are with them and there. And it keeps us on point, because every act of work, every act of solidarity that we do, we bring them out. They march with us. This march that you're going to have in Washington, Rene, Geraldo, Fernando, and all the Cuban Five and all the political prisoners are going to be there with you. Their presence will be felt. So I encourage you to get the information out, to re-energize. This activity is a blessing. It's a needed activity. I commend the organizers, because it starts off with something like this. Bolivar and Hugo Chavez Frias and many others had a dream of uniting Latin America. Ramon Emeterio Betances, Jose Martí, Toussaint Louverture had a dream of unifying the Antilles. Here we have many different representations. We also have a dream to free our political prisoners, to bring them home, to free ourselves in that process, eliminating every day one of those links of that chain that enchains us, that enslaves us to many different vices. And I believe that it starts off with acts like this. Again, the act of solidarity is an act of love. So I embrace you on behalf of my comrades, on behalf of Oscar Lopez Rivera. Let's bring them home. Let's bring them all home. Free the Cuban 5, free Oscar Lopez, free all political prisoners.
Luis made mention of the Freedom Ride for the 5 taking place June 1st. That's a Saturday, the cost of which will be $5 round trip. I encourage you to please join this Freedom Ride. It'll take place Saturday, June 1st. There are flyers that look like this all around for you to have additional information. Julio Escalona is Venezuela's ambassador to the United Nations. He holds degrees in economics, geopolitics, and environmental issues, and is a former director of the School of Economics at the Universidad Central Venezuela in Caracas, and head of its Department of Human Development. He is a professor of economics, general economic history, economic education in Latin America, contemporary Marxism, and contemporary social problems. He has coordinated research seminars on economic integration, local economies and local development, and alternative technologies, and has been a participant and guest lecturer at seminars, forums, academic institutions in Peru, Brazil, Japan, Paris, Mexico, Venezuela. Please help me welcome Julio Escalona, Ambassador to the United Nations.
Muy buenas noches a todos. Quiero agradecer profundamente a los organizadores de este tan importante acto, tan profundo, tan lleno de afecto, tan lleno de fe, tan lleno de esperanza.
Good evening. I would like to thank, in the most profound way, the organizers of this event, an event that is filled with faith and hope for the future.
Yo pensé que este acto debía clausurarlo el embajador Rodolfo Reyes, embajador de Cuba. Ahora me ha tocado a mí hablar después de él. Yo supongo que por más viejo.
I thought that this event, it would be most fitting if the ambassador of Cuba, Ambassador Reyes, would finish the event, but perhaps it is incumbent on me because of the fact I am older.
La otra cosa es que seguramente por más viejo, yo tengo más años que él gritando Cuba sí, Yankees no.
Just so that we could be clear, because I am older, I have spent more years shouting, yes, Cuba, Yankee no.
En 1959, ¿ya tú habías nacido, Rodolfo?
No, 64.
Okay. En 1959, Fidel Castro visitó Caracas. Y yo conocí a Fidel Castro en un meeting que hizo en el centro de Caracas. Y precisamente ahí comencé a gritar Cuba sí, Yankees no.
It was back in 1959, perhaps Rodolfo wasn't born as of yet. I met a man by the name of Fidel Castro, and we had a meeting in central Caracas. And it was from there that I began to shout, Cuba sí, Yankee no.
La otra cosa, también bien seria, las anteriores han sido muy serias, es que, bueno, voy a hablar en nombre de Venezuela, o estoy hablando en nombre de Venezuela, y los embajadores hablamos en nombre de los presidentes. Y yo hoy, con el permiso del presidente Chávez, donde quiera que esté, quiero hablar en nombre del presidente Chávez.
Something else that's very important that I would like to point out. In my capacity as ambassador, what we do is we speak in name of our presidents. And in the case of Venezuela, I would like to speak on behalf of our president, wherever he might be at this time. Hugo Chávez.
En este caso, yo mismo me estoy asignando un gran compromiso, porque eso no es fácil. Y sobre todo, hablar de Cuba, hablar de los 5 héroes, pararse aquí, en esta magna universidad, y hacer eso, hay que tomar fuerza para poder hacerlo.
In this case, right now, as I speak before you, I must say it is a great commitment, and it's not something that is easy. To be here today to speak about the 5 heroes of Cuba. And it's very important that we are at this Magna University to do this, and it requires strength and force.
Como ya se ha dicho, en junio de 1998, la seguridad cubana le entregó a la seguridad de Estados Unidos una amplia información sobre las actividades terroristas ejecutadas desde Estados Unidos contra Cuba. Cuba entregó un informe de más de 200 páginas, videocasetes, grabaciones de conversaciones telefónicas, en fin, una amplísima información que por supuesto causó impresión e impacto en la seguridad de Estados Unidos.
It was in June of 1998, the security services of the state of Cuba offered to the security services of the United States ample information about the activities, the terrorist activities against Cuba that were developed inside of the territory of the United States. They delivered more than 200 pages of video cassettes, information that was transmitted by television, by telephone about the actions of the terrorists against Cuba. And it was a tremendous amount of information, and it actually surprised the security organs of the United States, given all the precise information that was delivered.
La respuesta no fue, como bien sabemos, actuar contra los terroristas cubanos, sino detener a los 5 héroes cubanos que estaban aquí en labores antiterroristas y como patriotas cubanos defendiendo a su país, defendiendo su patria.
And the response that they made at this gesture was, instead of attacking the problem itself, they attacked the 5 heroes who, in a patriotic gesture, were only attempting to defend their country, their nation.
Por esa razón, este juicio ha estado plagado de mentiras, de trampas jurídicas, de prejuicios políticos, de prejuicios ideológicos. Y la mentira, las trampas, poco a poco vienen saliendo a la luz y la verdad va siendo conocida.
And this process, it was filled with a lot of vindictiveness, of prejudice on an ideological level and a political level, and it was filled with the lies and political manipulation and judicial manipulation against the truth.
Lo que está de fondo es que Cuba ha sido no solo un buen ejemplo, sino un gran ejemplo para todos los pueblos. Mientras que para Estados Unidos Cuba es un mal ejemplo, para nosotros, para los latinoamericanos, para los venezolanos, para los africanos, los asiáticos, europeos, también estadounidenses, Cuba es un gran ejemplo.
What is at the bottom of this issue is the question of Cuba. It has not only been a good example for all of us, it has been an incredibly great example, not only for our people, it has been a very bad example for the United States and promoted as such, but for us, for the people of Latin America, for the people of Venezuela, for the Africans, for the Asians, for the Europeans, and even for the people of the United States, Cuba has been a great example.
Y por eso han bloqueado a Cuba. Por eso el criminal bloqueo se mantiene, pese a la condena del mundo entero. Pero jamás han podido bloquear las ideas, el sentimiento, el esfuerzo, el patriotismo de un pueblo que ha sido un gran ejemplo para todos nosotros.
And it's for that reason they have decided to blockade Cuba. And they've maintained this criminal blockade, condemning the people, but they will never be able to blockade the ideas, the sentiments, the force, the patriotism of this great example for the people of the world.
Los nombres de los 5 héroes cubanos han venido quedando asociados a los nombres, por ejemplo, de los mártires de Chicago. Samuel Fielding, Adolf Fischer, Louis Lynn, Michael Schwab, Albert Parsons, Oscar Neff, August Spies, que fueron también juzgados aquí en Estados Unidos. Pero antes de ser juzgados ya estaban condenados. Por eso no fueron juzgados, fueron asesinados.
The names of the 5 Cubans have come to be associated with others, with other martyrs, such as the martyrs that we know now as the martyrs of Chicago: Samuel Fielding, Adolf Fischer, Louis Ling, Michael Schwab, Albert Parsons, Oscar Neebe, and August Spies. These were the people who were tried also in the United States. But before being tried, they were condemned. And they weren't just condemned, they were murdered, they were assassinated.
Uno de ellos pronunció estas palabras que leo a continuación, que fueron no solo esa última palabra que se le concede a los condenados a muerte, sino que fue un presagio del mundo del futuro. Y uno de ellos dijo: salud tiempo en que nuestro silencio será más poderoso que nuestra palabra que estrangula la muerte.
One of their the martyrs of Chicago, pronounced some words at the end of his life, which was a condemnation of death itself. And it gave us an indication of what the future has in store for us. What he said was, it is our silence that will become more powerful than the words that will strangle death.
Lo mismo ocurrió con Sacco y Vanzetti, dirigentes sindicales también. Y lo mismo ocurrió en esta historia terrible con Julius y Ethel Rosenberg.
The same occurred in the case of Sacco and Vanzetti, union leaders of the United States, and the same terrible fate also befell Julius and Ethel Rosenberg.
También los 5 héroes cubanos han estado condenados antes de ser juzgados, pero nosotros no permitiremos que los 5 héroes cubanos sean asesinados.
It also is the case that the 5 Cuban heroes have been condemned before any kind of legal judgment. But one thing we will not permit is that the 5 Cuban heroes will be assassinated.
Contrasta el tratamiento a los 5 héroes cubanos con el dado a Luis Posada Carriles, terrorista internacional, juzgado y condenado en Venezuela por la voladura del avión DC-8 de tu cubana de aviación en octubre de 1976, asesinando a 77 jóvenes. Su fuga fue organizada desde una cárcel venezolana con la complicidad de los servicios de inteligencia estadounidense. Continuó realizando actividades terroristas en diversos lugares. Finalmente se radicó en Estados Unidos. Venezuela, cumpliendo con todos los requisitos legales, ha solicitado su extradición. Sin embargo, las autoridades estadounidenses, con diversos subterfugios y trampas, se niegan a entregarlo a las autoridades venezolanas.
We contrast the treatment of the 5 Cuban heroes with the treatment that was received by the notorious Luis Posada Carriles, who was known as an international terrorist. He was condemned in Venezuela for blowing up the airplane, the Cubana airplane, in October of 1976, and so doing assassinated 77 Cuban youth. His escape was organized from the jail in Venezuela with the complicity of the intelligence of the United States, which had utilized various subterfuges in order to execute that. He is now residing in the United States. And despite all the efforts on the part of the Venezuelans for extradition from the United States, it has not been possible.
Esta ignominiosa historia debe concluir. Las conciencias justas y amantes de la libertad en Estados Unidos y otros lugares del mundo, para que los 5 héroes cubanos puedan regresar a su patria felices y orgullosos por el deber cumplido, como decía un poeta venezolano, cantando y más cantando y más cantando.
We should put an end to this ignominious chapter of history and conclude in a just manner the liberation of the Cubans, the 5 Cubans, the heroes who have carried out their just duty to defend their homeland, to be able to return to their homeland and to be received with all the spirit, with all the pride that they have complied with the responsibility of their commitment and to fulfill what a famous Venezuelan poet has said, singing and singing and singing again.
Presidente Chávez, con su permiso, he pronunciado estas palabras. Presidente Chávez, una vez más, estamos aquí cumpliendo con su misión, con la tarea que nos dejó. Y aquí estaremos siempre de pie.
President Chavez, once again, with your permission, I stand here and I give these words, once again, in compliance with the tasks that we all have to complete in order to stay standing in the struggle forward.
Cuba sí, Yankees no. Muchas gracias.
And now we will hear some music from the Bolivarian Brigade.
We're the Brigada Bolivariana. We're here to close the show.
Despiertos.
Eso no es Cuban 5.
Apenas ha comenzado.
Libertad, libertad, libertad.
Nosotros somos la generación que viene a pelear por esa lucha que sigue y viven todos nosotros.
Bien.
We're here to fight for the revolution because we're the new generation. We carry that struggle within ourselves.
Word.
It's in our blood. Our ancestors are Bolívar, José Martí, Toussaint Louverture y toda la gente que ha luchado por una revolución de dignidad. Yo, play that.
Bolívar, Bolívar. Free the Cuban 5. Yo, we gonna free the Cuban 5 tonight. Free the Cuban 5.
It's for the Cuban 5, baby. Yeah. We're gonna free the Cuban 5, baby. Yeah, man, let's go, let's go.
Hey.
Yo, check it out.
Let them know.
Hey, yo.
Free the Cuban 5.
It goes like this.
Racist judges, racist cases, right-wing senators, Freemasons, mercenaries working with CIA agents, Miami bourgeoisie and exile traders, all been trying to kill Fidel for ages, inhumane in cages, the Cuban 5 in chains, Rothschild banks are true dictators, dictate state, create austerity, right-wing rhetoric remedy, its enemy is revolutionary energy, because the aim is to restrain the revolution's gains and retain the fire that feed the flame inside the brain. So in the name of the Cuban 5 that have been hated and blamed, discriminated and degraded with shame, this song is dedicated to them, and that their time wasn't wasted in vain. Innocent lives tortured and caged, gave everything for the mission that was brave. Yeah, from terrorists like Luis Carrieles blowing up planes, this all gotta change. We gotta organize.
In the belly of the beast we survive. Open up the cages,
open up your eyes,
put your fists in the sky, hold them up high. Time has arrived
to free the Cuban 5.
In the
belly of the beast we survive.
Open up the cages,
open up your eyes,
put your fists in the sky.
hold them up high.
Yeah, hold them up high.
The time has arrived.
Hey yo, I tell my people rise and be wise. Don't believe the lies by the suit and ties. Corporate crime tied inside the pills they prescribe. Corporate news, you already know my dudes. We need to fight over this. Cause another day in prison planet, they call me a spicker, Spanish. Kid who won't amount to shit, just an average.
Put your hands up, put your fists in the air right now. Come on.
Villains laughing,
gotta free the Cuban 5, we the energy.
Rodney King, get the business. Cause the marine life getting damaged. So much sadness in the ocean, like the Middle Passage. Yo, the new Jim Crow. We living that with a mix of fashion. My vision graphic, little kids with ratchets. Stay pitching, trapping. Shirt kicks is matching, but they missing passion. Yeah, they missing passion.
The belly of the beast, we survive. Open up the cages, open up your eyes.
Put your fists
in the sky, hold them up high.
Time has arrived
to free the Cuban 5. In the belly of the beast, we survive. Open up the cages, open up your eyes.
Put your fists in the sky,
hold them up high.
Time has arrived
to free the Cuban 5.
Hey yo, free the Cuban 5. Fighting for the truth and they lies. Intentions and innocence disguised. Imprisoned by the all-seeing eyes. Slave masters of disasters. Politicians, high-price actors. Spreading lies like cancer. Mercenary jackals can never kill Castro. North of La Habana, armed in a cabana, seeking wisdom and truth. Ghetto truths, AKs and boots. Headshots on Project Roofs. Against Freemasons, skull and bones. Bombing these Afghani kids with predator drones. Plotting on your foreclosed homes. Resistant police brutality. Causing mass civilian casualties. Every day ghetto tragedies. Cuban 5 immigrants, prisoners of innocence. Free the 5 and Geraldo Palmera. Never stop until we win la guerra. In every hood, barrio en favela. Somos granos de la arena. Somos granos de la arena. Free the Cuban 5. Free the Cuban 5. Free the Cuban 5.
We survive.
Open up the cages.
Open up your eyes.
Put your fists in the sky. Hold them up high. Time has arrived
to free the Cuban 5.
In the
belly of the beast, we survive.
Open up the cages.
Open up your eyes.
Put your fists in the sky.
Hold them up
high.
Time has arrived
to free the Cuban 5.
Free the Cuban 5.
Free the Cuban 5. Free the Cuban 5. Free the Cuban 5, yo.
We need to organize and free the Cuban 5.
Yeah, free our brothers tonight, B.
And all political prisoners.
Too many years behind solitary, dog.
You ready to drop this? We gotta end this colonial system of oppression.
What up?
So let's end it.
What we got? El capitalismo vuelve todo peor.
Desde Caracas hasta Nueva York. El capitalismo vuelve todo peor. Pero estamos en revolución. Desde Caracas hasta Nueva York.
Brigada bolivariana desde la gran manzana, la gran patria colombiana, libertad de la nueva Granada. Antes levantaba espada, ahora fusil y granada, llamando la parada con la bandera abrazada. Revolución pacífica pero armada, la defendemos contra los imperios. Fríos inviernos, fríos infiernos, y si la naturaleza se opone la haremos obedecernos. Crecen guerras y cementerios por avaricia de imperios, de recursos que no son dueños. Despierten pendejos, son prisioneros, el capitalismo los tiene enfermos y los cuerpos son los pueblos, los niños y los abuelos. Con ellos reflejo por una libertad que nunca conocieron.